brief introduction, maybe give you some info that you didn't know. So the first person I want to bring up, she says that she's an artist. She says she's an artist, and she works in paint. She works with resin. She's even recently gotten back into modeling after taking some time off. You probably wouldn't believe it, but she's 51 years old. She still lives in the Chicago area, but she says her greatest accomplishment is being mom. That's her #1 accomplishment. So give it up for Carrie Hoskins. Carrie, as you guys probably know, was she joined the Mortal Kombat family for Mortal Kombat 3, and then would stick around for Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, which was the revision, Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero. Also, she did some work for the lead-in to Mortal Kombat 4, and there was even a short-lived Mortal Kombat live tour. So you guys remember like the Ninja Turtles, like Out of Their Shells tour? They were doing a lot of this in the 90s, these live-action tours for the summer. And there was briefly, I think it was only 1 year ever, there was a Mortal Kombat live-action tour that kind of went around. And she was the only character that was a real-life character from the game who actually portrayed herself on the live-action tour as well. Everyone else, they brought in a different actor to portray the different characters. But for Sonia, it was Carrie herself portraying Sonia right off of the screen and into, I guess they were going around stadiums and different places they were going in the 90s. And she said it was just a year of her life that just zapped away, but she loved it. The last person I want to bring up, now, when she joined the Mortal Kombat family in 1994, she was only 19 years old, and she was a teenager when they brought her on. But they wanted to make her look real old, so they put this big white wig on her. She portrayed, in her first appearance, she portrayed Shindel, and she went on to be in Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero as Serena. She's now a full-time fitness instructor with Bar Fitness, yoga, and meditation in the Chicago area. She's been working in that field, plus or minus, since she was 17. I'm sorry, she's been in Chicago since she was 17. She lived in Los Angeles for 24 years and just moved back to Chicago. And she's wearing purple, so you know it's her as the queen. Give it up for Leah. Came out of the elevator this morning. I saw her in the lobby, and she's just got the rock star purple on. I'm like, oh, it's Shindel. You just saw her from like 80 feet away. I'm like, there she is. So it's like really owning it. I love how each of them have little elements of their characters that are sort of like, where does the character end and where do they begin? They're kind of like really embodying the person. That's really cool. This next guy I'm going to bring up, he's the biggest dude in the room. He's the owner of Beyond Human Fitness. He's a world champion bodybuilder. He's a competition coach, a motivational speaker. He just came back from a competition. He has all kinds of fun things to tell you about nutrition, digestion, gas, and all kinds of things, lifting things up and bringing things down. He's having a good thing. And I think this is hilarious because he looks even bigger and fitter and stronger today than he did 26 or 27 years ago. Give it up for John Parish. The original Jax. And I was talking, we were having lunch upstairs earlier, and this is just something you can't make up. John was telling me he was actually in the military. He served in the Army, and he actually at one time held the rank, or maybe even beyond the rank, of the fictional character he portrayed. Is this true?
No, I wasn't a major.
You didn't get up to that, but you were in the armed forces.
Yes, I was a staff sergeant.
Okay, so in real life in the military, then portraying a man who was a special operation in the military. It's just cool little things like that. I love those details.
Thank you for your
service.
Thank you.
So the next person I want to bring up, this is her story so cool. In 2014, she wrote a book called The Ultimate Guide to Strength Training Through Martial Arts, and she's currently writing a new manual for the speed sports for speed and sports performance training. She's the owner and trainer of the POW Gym in Chicago for the last 20 years. It's a combat and sports performance facility. And get this, she's a 4-time black belt. She is very, very well versed in kicking your ass. She can do it if she has to do it. And she says, man, my entire life, honestly, my entire life has been dedicated to martial arts, fitness, and training. But she left the Mortal Kombat part of her story out deliberately for a long time because she didn't want people to think that her success in life or her ambition was because she was in a video game. She wanted to get the credit for herself, for her own talent, her own accomplishments, and she's just recently, and I mean like in the last year or so, really kind of really started to embrace her role. But she's the original Princess Katana, Melina, and Jade. Get it up for Catalan Ogre. You know, it's funny, I was talking to someone back home, I don't know if it was yesterday, they said, oh, you're hanging with a bunch of old, washed up, overweight, out of shape. I'm like, no, hell no. No, these guys, like, most of them are either in equivalent shape or better than they were when they were younger, and all of them are well above average and actually like real life training and real life skills here. These aren't just actors on a screen. They deliberately were looking for martial artists and people who were physically enabled and physically talented to portray these characters. And it's not a gimmick. It's who they really are. And I think that's really, really neat. Just seeing them today. They take care of themselves. Yeah. So you know how this man ended up where he's at today is a story that I guess we could just ask him to tell. We can burn one of our questions asking him this. But today, rail riders in the beautiful city of Chicago would never know that some of the metropolitan rail cars that they're working on, the big subway trains that they're working on, there's one special maintenance man there who used to pull hearts out of chests because it's Richard Divizio who was in 4 different iterations of the game. I gotta give so much props to Richard because he really carries the team, and so to speak, with being in 1, 2, 3, and 4, and he's very passionate, very, very passionate. Yeah, if you have ever seen the people at Starbucks this morning at the Royal Sonesta, the people at the hotel had no idea that this dude in like a Spirit Halloween costume at the Starbucks was not in a Spirit Halloween costume. He was actually Kano, portraying Kano. It was himself getting literal coffee at Starbucks this morning. These dudes didn't even flinch. And I'm thinking, man, they have no idea. They probably put quarters in to play this dude, make him jump around and get kicked in the nuts and everything else they've done over the years. But he was, 4 different iconic characters, been on the side art, been since Mortal Kombat, since there was Mortal Kombat. And he actually has combat training as well. He started doing Kung Fu training when he was 13 years old. And he was also in Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero. A lot of people don't talk about that one because it was a console-only release. So we can get technical, we can go even further than just the 4 arcade games. You can get into a lot more than that. But Richard, man, it's just awesome that I think he just leaves it on. He just like goes around just being Kano. He's fired up, and he says, he told me, I saw him at the airport, he says, I just closed on my house. We didn't even get to enjoy the house. We literally closed the house, we signed it, hopped on the plane, and there they were at the airport. They haven't even got to enjoy their house because we want to be here today. All right, and this last guy I want to bring up, man, you gotta love him. He's a master level martial artist in traditional martial arts. I asked him how many black belts he wants because, you know, me with my stupid mind, I think if you have black belts, then that's the ultimate. He says, well, some of the martial arts that I practice in go back thousands of years old. Really, a lot of Americans in the last 80 years have really come up with this whole black belt idea. Some of the martial arts I train in, we don't even say the word black belt. We talk about mastery and mind and body mastery. We started going off into the twilight zone with some of the talk here. But he's the owner of Master Pesina's Martial Arts in Chicago for the last 21 years. He's been practicing professional martial arts since 1969. And he is the original Johnny Cage, the original Sub-Zero, the original Scorpion, the original Noob Saibot, and he's just an iconic part on the side of every Mortal Kombat 1 cabinet. And you see these arcade 1-ups, they don't come out of the box that way. You might have saw and said, what the heck's going on? They made custom arcade 1-ups where it's Mortal Kombat 1 on the side, Mortal Kombat 2 on the marquee, and Mortal Kombat 3 on the other side. And they just did that just for today's event. But you got to give it up, and I got to say the word because he earned it. Master Daniel Pesina. I would tell them to get over here, but you know, that's that would be expected. That would be expected.
Never gets old.
So, so these, could we kill the music, Rob? Is that possible?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool. So these 6 characters here, these 6 people before, they have appeared together on one other occasion. I believe it was in 2017 at the Galloping Ghost or something, as a guest of the Galloping Ghost in a hotel somewhere in the Chicago area. But the thing is, Galloping Ghost, they cheated. And the reason they cheated is because they picked these guys and they called an Uber. They came 15 minutes down the street. It was easy. Getting to Tennessee, that's not quite as easy. It's definitely the first time that these 6 have ever appeared together in the state of Tennessee. It's definitely the first time they've ever appeared together, I think probably south of Chicago. And it's for sure the first time they've ever appeared at the game terminal. So we're just going to keep changing the facts around until it's the first time ever. It's just really exciting to have them. And across these 6 people, you know, there's more than I think there's more than 16 different characters represented. And if you really start asking them some questions too, some of them have gone on to be other characters. I've done modeling for maybe TJ Combo in Killer Instinct, or Maya in Killer Instinct. Got involved. Carrie was actually you've seen her in NBA Jam. She was actually she was the model for the cheerleaders, and they just duplicated her along the back. So the girls in the back of NBA Jam. You didn't even realize. You just didn't even realize. Daniel's been in some other games too. There was other fighting games as well that he was involved in. The point is, you didn't even know. Y'all didn't even know. Y'all having your mind blown. So, is it true, John? Is it true you did some other work for other video games other than Mortal Kombat?
Doom. I was actually the TJ Combo when they came out.
The original
Gloves at home. The Everlast gloves were real, so I said use these. I give my clients get that bag right.
Tell them about Rich's blonde wig. Rich had a blonde wig for that picture too.
That's right.
I was Jacob.
Yeah, you were Jacob. That's right. That's when we were in San Antonio that time.
We did a show for that.
Yeah, we did a show for in San Antonio.
Well, so a lot of people, you know, we're all here for Mortal Kombat, and we're focusing on their career of Mortal Kombat, and it's fun. But when you're in the Chicago area, guys, back in the 90s, you know, there's a lot of video game development, arcade development, pinball development, all going on really in this one neighborhood, in this one area. And a lot of these guys end up crossing paths and end up working on different projects with each other. One of the fun videos, I was doing all the digital assets in the lead up to this. Some of you guys might have saw on Facebook or Instagram. And there's one video that we saw that you put out there. You saw Daniel fighting in character as Johnny Cage against Kung Lao at what must have been a pinball convention or some sort of gaming convention. And this was you were doing a live demonstration in front of a bank of pinball machines, right? And there was a whole probably 8 or 10 pinball machines. These were all Star Trek: The Next Generation. So I can tell you from that pinball machine that would have been 93 or 94 that you were doing that because they were filming the game. But what's crazy is the designer of that game is Steve Ritchie. Steve Ritchie, who created Star Trek Pinball, that they were fighting live in front of, ended up becoming the voice of Shao Kahn for Mortal Kombat 2 and 3. So, and at the time that they were doing the live demonstration, Steve Ritchie himself wouldn't have ever known that he would become the voice of Shao Kahn. But that's how close the video game industry is in Chicago. And stuff overlaps like that. There's a lot of cool stories. So I want to ask just a couple of cool questions, and then I want to open it up to you guys. So that way you guys all paid to be here, and thank you for that. So I want to ask just each of you, and I know you've been doing it since the 60s, but what got you into martial arts? What got you into martial arts? But before you were into it, what made you say, I want to get into it? Daniel.
I was watching a black and white, because there was only black and white programs back then, series on Sunday with my father called Charlie Chan the Detective, where this short, fat detective would solve mysteries. During one of the episodes, I saw Charlie Chan, this little guy, throw a big guy, actually, a stunt guy, but he threw him. I was like, oh, that's really cool. And my dad's hanging out with me, and my dad served in the U.S. military during the Korean War. So my dad, like, is this harebrained, he's like, I could teach you how to do that. And so I got to throw my dad one time because when he got up, I was like, oh, let me do it again. You know, kids are, let me do it again. And my dad's like, no, you're not doing that again. But then I had this harebrained idea because I have 2 older brothers that, man, if I learned this, they're always winning in races and doing all this stuff. I could beat these guys up. So I bugged my father to take martial art lessons to beat up my older brothers.
And that was 1969.
I started in 1969. I bugged them for a really long time. 2, because back then there was no kids martial arts. You had to be a teenager to take martial arts. 2, when I got my first official black belt in judo and Shotokan karate, I was 15 and they would not let me wear a black belt because I was not 18. I couldn't drive a car. I couldn't get my own job. I couldn't serve in the U.S. military. So they were like, you can't wear a black belt because you don't know responsibility. So it's not more about the technique, it was more about the whole kind of art thing. So, yeah.
Well, Rich, you said that you've been doing this since you were 13, or that you started when you were 13. What's the story there? And how does your story cross with Daniel's? Because you said something about him teaching you something. What's up with that?
When I was 13, there was this kid in school who one day in his bag he had some nunchucks, like choco sticks, they would call them, and that's what we called them. But he was doing all this cool stuff, and I asked him, I said, so where did you learn how to do that? He says, and remember, we're like 13 years old. He said, I learned it from my teacher, Danny. So that Danny is this Danny. So I'm 13. What? Danny's 23 at that time. So I said, well, you know what, I want to, and at that time I knew nothing about Bruce Lee. I was born in '68. I can honestly say I never really saw a Bruce Lee movie in the '70s. But this guy Craig that I grew up with, I went back to his house. He had all the VHS tapes, and we started to. He's like, "You got to see this guy." He puts in like Bruce Lee, and we're watching all this cool stuff. And I'm like, I want to do that, you know. So then he introduced me to Danny and his brother Carlos, who plays Raiden. And Carlos is more near my age. Carlos is a year older than me, so he was like 14. But yeah, I started training with Daniel right then and there.
So Scorpion trains.
It's the beginning of a friendship. A long friendship.
This is amazing, and it's still going to this day.
Yeah.
I mean, that was decades and decades
Yeah.
ago, and here we are together, still talking about it at a table. You
Yes.
could never, ever
Isn't that crazy?
thought. It's really crazy.
Should we hug now?
So Catalan, so you know, when I was talking to you back there, you said basically the whole synopsis of your life, if you had to dial it down, has been martial arts training, kicking things, going and like. So you said 4 black belts. So where does your story begin with martial arts or throwing fists or legs around?
When I was 6, I went to go watch my dad train for the Golden Gloves, and I always was fascinated. My family, they're Cuban exiles, so when my mother came to this country, she was a fanatic boxing fan. The Cubans kind of kill it in that department, just saying.
Yeah.
So she was in love with this fighter named Telefono Stevenson, who was a very, very famous Cuban boxer. He's like one of the most winningest boxers. And I was like, oh, I think he's so magnificent too. I just like fell in love with him. But then I also loved Bruce Lee, and I wanted to do all these things. The answer was no, 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 because girls were not allowed to do it in the 70s. And finally, my mom just found like this karate instructor that allowed me to take classes, and we did it in secret. And I would take classes, and then I would be dismissed, and then class would start. And I would sit on the outside watching it happen like I was somebody's sister. And then you just kind of kept training and kept training. So I always joke, my husband's joke is that I'm the most rejected martial arts student of all time. So fast forward, I kept training, really, really loved it, picked up boxing and all this other kind of stuff. And then went to another martial art. And then at the time, and Danny for sure can attest to this, in the 70s and 80s, you did not train in more than one martial arts at the same time. That was like disrespectful. That'd be like a classical ballerina wanting to be a street dancer in the 70s. They just didn't do it. You did it completely in secret. So I would literally, like in secret, go from one school to another school and pretend to be that. And it just, you know, eventually it didn't work out. I just kept training and training and training. And then I started to get into ground fighting and jiu-jitsu, and women were not allowed to do that. So I got kicked out of a couple schools in California. And then literally, I can remember we went to Japan, and I was like, I'm going to go to Sakuraba's school. I'm going to train, and he's my idol. And did you guys follow the original Pride and MMA? Yes. Okay, well, they're amazing. So my husband and I flew all the way. He was my husband at the time. And I was like, because I was working in Asia, I was like, we got to go to Sakuraba school. I'm going to train there. It's going to be amazing. And I'm going to be like, just the coolest female jiu-jitsu player of all time. I wasn't that good yet, by the way. But I wasn't that good at jiu-jitsu. And they freaked out the second I walked into the school. Absolutely freaked out. And they like totally treated my husband like he was some icon. And he was just a big white guy from America. There was nothing special about him at that moment in time. And they would like not let me come in. I couldn't touch past another place. So that happened. Then I flew to Brazil, to Rio, and I was like, I'm going to train at the Hicks and Gracie Academy. Completely. So it was like this kind of like battle of like where to get your training in. And I was fortunate that I did find a lot of really great people through the 80s and the 90s. I met these guys, and women were far more integrated into martial arts in the 90s. But I met these guys after college. I had gotten a couple black belts at the time, and they turned me on to Chinese martial arts and just other things, and they were super welcoming. Mortal Kombat happened. Our group got really tight. I continued with the jiu-jitsu and all that other kind of stuff and just kind of kept going. But it was something I just thought, kind of like a language or like a musician. I really loved an instrument, played it really hard, loved it, played it, and then I was like, God, but this guy looks really cool playing this instrument. And then I was like, these guys look really cool doing this. I want to do this now. So then I jumped with that, and then I was very fortunate. I had Hossam as a training partner for like 9 years. So I had a really good teacher.
Who's Liu Kang?
Yeah.
Who played Liu Kang. And then I kind of became his training partner, and that elevated my martial arts. So I was just really in a lot of really great places. I mean, even though I was rejected a ton, I found a lot of really great male instructors. Never had a female instructor. A lot of really great male instructors that actually totally accepted me. And when I wanted to box, they wouldn't let me box. I was too, women couldn't box. And I found this guy in college that was an Argentinian boxing champion. He's like, I'll teach you how to box. And I was like, okay, when do I show up? So it was just that thing, and it's just like harnessing opportunities to pursue something that you want to learn and pursuing it really, really hard, and then just kind of moving on. And then now, you know, I would never reject any females. Now I've got like the most amazing female students in the world.
Maybe we all just glossed over something.
What?
But I heard you say something, and I'm just putting the puzzle together in my head. But it sounds like, and you please correct me if I'm wrong,
You're wrong.
but it sounds like you might be one of the pioneers of female mixed martial arts. Because it sounds to me like you were doing a lot of mixed martial arts
I was.
before
And
there
that
was
was
such a thing.
And that's what made me open up my gym. My dream was
But
I
you say
wanted
you
to
were there in the
open
early
up a
days?
martial arts like university. Like my idea was I'm going to open up a place where you can study more than one martial art and no one's going to like give you any shit for it.
Is that what the POW gym is?
And that's what POW was opened as. It was like you had a kung fu track, you had a taekwondo track, you had a ground track.
So you open your own
had
gym to answer the problem to your own childhood and teenage problems.
Oh my God, you're amazing.
Yeah.
I just want to interject and go back just real quick. So I told you when I was 13, you know, I had met Daniel and his brother Carlos, who plays Raiden. After a few days of starting to train with them, there were a couple of other people that I met that are not here today. and one of them was Ho-Sung Pak, who was actually training at the time with Daniel, who ends up being Liu Kang, and Anthony Marquez, who plays Kung Lao, and they were both 14 years old at the same time. So, you know, I'm meeting Daniel, Ho-Sung Pak, Carlos Pesina, Anthony Marquez. This is like all at the same exact time when I'm 13 and they're 14. So this is like a crew of friends that eventually go on to do what we're going to do one day. But I just kind of just show you how far that friendship goes back with you know, some of the people who are not here today. So that's all I want to say. Isn't that pretty cool?
It's super cool to hear that there was pathways, connections, and friendships being forged when you were children, when you were teenagers.
Yeah, I
that
recall,
end up connecting and leading you guys all together, really to become a part of one of the most iconic, if not the most iconic, fighting game franchises ever.
Yeah,
And if not for those friendships and those connections and these just, you know, very innocent just relationships, none of this happens in the exact combination that it did.
No.
Yeah,
I recall going to tournaments and seeing Catalan compete at tournaments and winning
When
at
I was a
tournaments.
child, and
When
you didn't
were a
even
child.
know that.
Yeah, and I
So
didn't really know.
he's
Yeah.
older than I am. I was the youngest
Naturally,
cast
I'm
member
the
in
old
my
guy.
game. I just wanted to say. But when I was when he was an adult, I was a child forms competitor, and he remembers seeing me. It's just crazy, the world, how it works out.
Small.
But Danny and Ho-Sung in my 20s influenced my martial arts
Awesome.
significantly. Danny was the one that actually told me you were never meant to be hard stylish, you should have been in Kung Fu all your life. And I said, really? And I was like, okay.
Sound like we had that conversation today
Yeah.
about my daughter. didn't we?
And yeah, so I mean, it's funny how things come full circle.
John, we could see that ever since you were first introduced to us in Mortal Kombat 2, we could see that you're a very strong man. You're very good at picking things up and putting them back down. But do you, or had you also have a martial arts background or some sort of combat fighting background that led you into it? Or were they looking for someone with a specific physique or a specific character type or build type to fill in a character? Or do you also have a story that goes
That's a
back?
lot of questions.
I'm just curious.
So somebody better bring the goddamn That's a lot of questions.
We're live. Say hello.
Simplify. What's your origin story?
Well, there's no such thing as an origin story with a parish. To begin with, one my entire background is academic. All right, so a lot of people don't know that. But no, I was born and raised in California. Okay, everything was outdoors. We did everything outdoors. My first influence in martial arts was I loved to watch Bruce Lee and Billy Jack. Period. Okay, and I told my mother the first time she took me down to the matinees on Sunday with all of our food in a big ass bag that she made, and we had watched 3 to 4 hours of Bruce Lee movies and offbeat, you know, kung fu movies, and I said, I want to do that. So she enrolled me. My father wouldn't, because he was a musician, stern, strict, didn't want that. So I would go and I would learn, but then I got into gymnastics. And I still continued on with martial arts. Not like what Danny and Rich and Catalan have done, but you know, I was always involved in it. You know, like he said, as far as belts and Kung Fu, we had sashes and things like that. I made it all the way to a red sash and Southern style Kung Fu, and you know, but I was 10 years old. Okay.
Yeah.
But I was a gymnast in school, and I was always athletic. My genetics and my prowess, you know, or as what we call today is AHDA, I'm very hyper, even at 56 years old. So I must stay moving, physically and mentally all of the time. So I always did something. Rollerblade, roller skate, hockey, even though we didn't have hockey and ice in California, but we had floor hockey, and we would do it and we would skate. So every time a season came around, football, kite flying season, baseball, basketball, we did it. So, and I always, but Bruce Lee and them were always there. And me and my friends, we formed a club called the Karate Club. We didn't know what the hell we were doing, without direction, but we excuse my language, fuck each other up every weekend. And I was damn good at it. My mother made sure that I stayed in school with me. So that is kind of where it goes, and then it just evolved.
Right.
Now everybody sees me as this big guy now. That's, my body's adapted to these things. I'm naturally gifted as who I am to grow, get bigger, lift weight. I didn't start lifting weights when I was like 23 years old. A lot of people think I was like, oh, you've been lifting weights since you were like 10, 15. Oh, no. I was just always athletic. And as a gymnast, yes, I have, in California, I was a floor tumbler. Many first place trophies for that. I could do backflips. That's why in the game, yes, those are real backflips. A lot of them. On the thin ass mat that Danny finally procured with this heavy ass belt back then, and then boots. And those military boots you saw me wear are from the United States Military Army when I served. And I still have them. Okay.
That's a cool deal. The boots you wore in the game were your own actual issued boots from your time in the military.
That is correct.
I learned that today.
I went to basic training with those boots, and I kept them pristine.
Bring your own props. We're a budget game at this
point. And I just
point.
bought a different pair for everything else, and wore those. I was like, I like these. I keep these. But that's, like I tell a lot of people. And then I did stop for 20 years. And yes, I did powerlifting in the military with a bunch of guys. We had no idea after that what to do. We did bodybuilding. I'm good at it. I kept doing it. But I always, something about martial arts, it's always instilled in you, the discipline mainly. And as you grow older, you understand the wisdom of it. It's not, like he was telling Catalan about hard and soft style. I was just talking to Danny today, telling my daughter, you're not a Muay Thai person or a kickboxing person. You're more the Kung Fu person, more fluent style. So call him your Uncle Danny.
Really quick, before he continues his story, I need to interject. When we were looking for a person to do jacks, there was a Mr. Universe, and there was also a Mr. USA up for the running, besides John. But I knew John then, and the other guys were ripped. John was big, but I've seen John do a split. And even one time I saw literally John from standing still, but like this, there's a desk at Lakeshore Athletic Club. Lakeshore. It was this high, and he barely flexed his leg and he jumped on top. And then I was like, that's Jax. And I went in and I told, because John had the pictures of the other guys, and I was like, but this guy, we don't need to babysit. I don't need to work on lifting his leg, or you don't really have to reposition, because in the end, for me, because I'm a martial artist, I could tell when you do not know martial arts. A lot of people say, oh, how can you tell? Man, it's like wine and water, right? You know when, at least for me, I know when you don't really know that much martial arts and you know a lot of martial arts, because you're just into it. So I was like, I've seen him do a split. We don't have to babysit him. He will be fast. He'll get in there, because, again, they're giving us 9 months to create this game, and even for number 2, we were still kind of in the conceptual creation of a lot of things. So I was like, this guy will get the whole job done. So, and he did. Yeah, his athleticism really, really is impressive. But yeah, please.
Yeah. And going back to that, and I've always saw them at the gym and everything, and again, when he saw me do that, and they would do a box jump, and I said, that's not how you jump. That's just not how you do that. And then when he saw me, I said, this is how you jump. Yes, I can actually take even to this day at my weight, actually jump on top of something over 70 inches tall. Okay, and I have no problem doing it. And backflip right off of it with no problem. Okay.
About that high. There you go, right there.
Yeah.
73 at the top.
And people say, how do you do it? And I said, well, I'm into fitness. And I said, understand how your muscles and body moves, and then you will understand how to flow like water. But that is my background in, the whole, and then fitness, fitness is second nature to me. It's It's like waking up every day.
Right. It's
You know,
ingrained.
it's just what I do. I've always done it, even though I'm good at other things. You know, I tried the corporate route, graduated, got degrees, got letters behind my names, like a lot of other people. Means shit to me, because I was not happy. But what I do now, besides Mortal Kombat, is very fulfilling. And when I got back into fitness, I told my wife and the rest of the family, I said, since I'm getting back in, which I'm never getting back out, I'm going to intertwine all of it together. I'm going to take everything I learned in business, everything I learned in IT, everything I know in martial arts, everything I know in fitness, and then Mortal Kombat and merge them all into one. And I will be then happy. Okay? It's not about the money, it's about being happy. And being around the people that are not true fans, trust me. I mean, 30 years, what was it, 35 years almost?
Next year will be 30 years.
30, god damn.
You're telling me.
But I mean, that is, you know, that is the journey, and you know, the military teaches you discipline and honed it in, and then, you know, this is where I am today. You know, so this is basically what I do. For those who follow me, which seems to be a lot of you, you'll see everything I post. I walk the walk, and I definitely, when I'm talking, I say it, I'm going to tell you the truth. You may not like it.
I love it.
But I'm going to tell you the goddamn truth. And I'm not, and like I was telling the kid today, I said, I ain't trying to persuade you one way or the other. That's entirely up to you. I said, but let me tell you something. I said, I'm around a bunch of beautiful people. I mean, we've become friends for 30 goddamn years. I'm closer to them than my own family members. I said, I got a cousin where? Who are they? I've been your cousin for 50 years. And who are they?
Leah, do you have a background in martial arts as well, like everyone else at the table? It seems to be a common theme here, but not necessarily prerequisite.
Right. When I was 4, no, I'm just kidding. It wasn't 4. You know, it's my background actually is I'm originally a self-taught dancer, and that's really kind of what I did right out of the womb. I found martial arts a bit later in life. I was bullied a little bit, and I got into a fist fight with this girl. And I remember just kind of like the fear and the terror of her coming at my face was, you know, it was really scary. And I was always really strong in my legs, so I was about 14 when I finally found martial arts. And my first love and still is Taekwondo. It was just something that I really enjoyed. It was very kind of like easy for my body to receive. And so I studied that as a student. And kind of like Catalan, like I was just right away into fitness, her with the martial arts, but for me it was kind of like finding anything that I really could get my movement with kickboxing and things that just really kind of made me feel strong and that I could protect myself. That was really where my draw to any type of martial arts training came.
Yeah.
And then just as the years progressed, Taekwondo was there. But mine came more in this fitness world of like Billy Blanks. Like I trained with Billy Blanks, so I did like the kickboxing, the more aerobic, not the traditional.
Yeah.
So that's why a lot of my movements with Shindel, the character, they're not the same movements that, you know, the former characters did. Mine were a little bit more kind of, you know, based on my inflexibility and the movements that I really couldn't do correctly. I wanted to bring something when I finally had that opportunity that would look believable, which ended up being, you know, some of the game-changing.
Well, so, I was talking to you about this over here at your table, is by the time, you know, unfortunately when they were doing Mortal Kombat 1 and even to a degree Mortal Kombat 2, there wasn't just a lot of great documentation going on. They didn't have your Netflix documentary crews with the over-shoulder cameras following you guys around. No one was necessarily thinking, especially for the first game, Maybe we should document all this. Maybe this will be historically relevant someday. But Daniel thought for whatever reason to just be the weird guy with the camera and just take pictures personally, his own camera. Cast member, people, someone who's working on the game, he himself was like, maybe we should just take pictures of this. And so many of the pictures of the production of the game that we have now, especially the first game, go right back to him just literally getting his own camera out while he was working and taking those photos. But by the time we get to 3, someone had realized maybe we should be filming this. And there's terrific video of you in character as a then 19-year-old girl wearing a giant wig and like some sort of bodycon swimsuit, and doing the hand movements and falling into mattresses and flying back. And you can see too, from Mortal Kombat 1 to 2 to 3, how the mattresses get a little more plump.
Oh yeah.
Like, as the years went
More
on,
money,
the
more
budget,
money
yeah,
came in.
the budget went up. And when they were doing Mortal Kombat 1, they used a mattress from behind a dumpster or something in an alley in Chicago. And then by the time they got to 3, they had blue screens and cameras and air conditioning, and it was just so much better. So like you picked a much better time
Thank you.
to come on.
They picked me, but yeah, I mean, and just kind of like those altering the movements and having a little bit more padding,
Yeah.
and then having to kind of like make shift and be a part of the action of it was definitely, it was a game changer, being able to capture it on camera like you said. I think.
Mine was concrete.
Yes.
We didn't have nets when I was doing my falls, and I told John, I was like, John, the rest of these guys are not going to be wanting to fall on concrete. It's basically we're doing this game as a favor to you.
When you guys are in the game terminal later, and hopefully you'll go there and spend lots and lots of money on drinks. Favorite one's called Sparkle Puss. It's exclusive here to the game terminal. They even have a t-shirt about it. I think they wrote a song about it. There's a hashtag. It's great. It's in a little ball, has lights on it. It's awesome. But behind all the bars, they have this footage on just constant repeat. So if you're at any of the bars here in the game terminal, and look around too, there's little details that you're going to see, like the cornhole. If you get out in the backyard, there's little Mortal Kombat logos on the cornhole. There's little Easter eggs and stuff all around this place that we just put in just to make the experience cooler for you guys. But look for some of that footage on the screens behind the TV. And last but not least, Carrie. Again, I think one of the things that you told me that was so surprising. You're here because you're Sonia Blade. You're here because the green and the white, and you're Sonia. But the truth is, and you were proud of this, is you're like, actually, Jared, I've worked on like 12 different video games, and that's unique. That spans beyond Mortal Kombat. And I always also thought it was really unique and fun that there was this live action tour, like in the 90s. Like I said, there was this whole just kind of cultural thing where anything that was cool or relevant needed to have a live action summer tour. And they did this with like Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers and everything else. Everything had a live action tour. And then they did a Mortal Kombat live action tour, and they sort of recast everybody for the fact that they had to go on tour and live out of a bus for a year. But you're like, I'll do it. And like the real Sonia becomes Sonia on the tour too. So, but before we talk about that, what is your background in martial arts, or is there one? Tell us about it.
Before Mortal Kombat came around, I really had none. My background started in boxing, just like Catalan. I wanted to be in Golden Gloves. My brother was in Golden Gloves. He was a year younger than me. And I wanted so much to fight him. And they wouldn't let me join because I was a girl.
You want to fight your brother?
It was just so ridiculous.
Girls kick ass.
I know.
My dog beat
And
the hell out of burgers.
so at home, my dad, every time we get in a fight, he'd say, okay, let's put the gloves on. And I would get to fight my brother at home. And that was pretty much my training in boxing growing up. And then as I got older, they let girls play sports as far as like fighting went. So I joined a team in Minneapolis, and it was based on WWF wrestling and boxing, where we would tour clubs around Minneapolis, and we would fight each other. We'd start out boxing, and it would turn into WWF wrestling.
Entertainment.
Yeah, it was entertainment, and I'd be spitting beer in guys' faces. I was actually the heel, fighting the baby faces, and I don't know, I always thought I looked like a baby face, but they thought I was
spitting
the heel,
beer.
so.
No,
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Well,
Oh, I can make a picture if you want me to.
no, please don't piss her off. So, I want to know, and we're going to get to your questions because I know a lot of you guys have some great questions. I want to give you guys the opportunity. But how many times did you practice that split punch? how many times did you have to go down and do it? And how did they even film every single character? You know, I saw you have this great graphic over there that says you got caged. If you guys didn't see this over on his table, it's hilarious. And basically, every single character is getting, you know, punched in between the legs. But that's not CG. That's you really going down and doing this. So how many times do you have to practice that to do that for them to capture it?
Well, one, I didn't want to do it because it was, you know, I will pay for a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, but I will not do a parody. I will not act like Jean-Claude Van Damme. But apparently I will if you buy me food. Because John, one day John was like, hey.
Lots of pizza.
Yeah, he's like, remember the, you know, when they turned on that Jean-Claude Van Damme game and we got to come back into our game? I was like, yeah. So they want to do a little bit of parody of Jean-Claude Van Damme, and I think that's where the whole mythos, or maybe, you know, how it, but anyway, he's like, can you do a couple of Van Damme moves? And I was like, no, I'm not doing it. And then John was like, I'll buy you an extra large sausage and pepperoni pizza tonight. I was like, tonight? Right? So we practiced with that. And then he's like, yeah. And I was like, okay. What I didn't realize is that I would have to do that, not only that split, but the other split, literally 50 or 60 times in different angles to finally capture what you see. And it had to be done slow. So in the end, if you look at this video going, you will see Ed coming out and sprinkling some powder on the floor. That is actually powder that I would keep my rope there. That wasn't, and we didn't even think of that for Scorpion's weapon yet. To make the floor slippery because my legs started getting tight. Because you know, you do splits, right, 15, 20 times. Then after that, just because it's slow and you have to use your muscle as the isometric tension for the counterweight, 50, 60 times is a lot. So in the end, we finally did it, but I did it a lot, and yeah, I don't regret it. Pretty cool that I could do it, but man.
But you did that move, so without a large sausage and cheese pizza, we don't get the move. There's no split, there's no punch, none of it.
No.
It's literally a large pizza did it.
Yes.
And that's coming right from the man.
Yep.
So I think you were telling me earlier, that first game, they were capturing content on, you said, a high-8 camera? Basically like a camcorder?
No,
Is this true?
That was your father's camera, wasn't it?
That was John Tobias's.
John
It was
first
9
game.
millimeter.
High-8.
High-8. High-8.
Yeah, I recall that one time, you know, John and I would be meeting like almost every day to film stuff. And one time, John was like, hey, don't come in today. And I was like, what happened? And he's like, I forgot to ask my dad for permission to use the camera. So if I see him tonight, then I'll call you tonight and we'll start reshooting again the next day.
John Tobias had to ask his dad to borrow his high-8 camcorder to film his friend Daniel to make a video game.
Yep.
Yes.
All right. I mean, I just want to make sure. And so,
Goodwill for $5.
this is the question I think a lot of us would have. So I'll just ask it for everyone. I'd love to go down the table, and I know that we probably could speak for 30 minutes on this, but if we can concisely explain, what is the moment that you get the phone call that it wouldn't have been an email, I guess a letter, what is the telegram? But what's the moment that you're first exposed to Mortal Kombat, or the idea that you're going to be in Mortal Kombat? So I think this would be a great question. So, or maybe the idea that would become Mortal Kombat, because maybe when you heard about it, it wasn't Mortal Kombat yet. So each of you, I just wanted you to tell us, what was that first moment where you were going to become on the game or heard about it?
For me, it was like, you know, we're back in the day, and you know, I'm at my parents' home, and my parents were like, hey, John called, and give him a call back. And then I was like, oh, okay. A couple of days later, there's somebody knocking on the freaking door, and my mom's like, hey, Rich is here. And I'm Rich, and then he's like, Book. We call each other Book. It's probably a nasty word in a different language, but that's what we call it.
It just means like friend.
So he's like, Book, John's been trying to call you. You need to call him. He called me up, and he's got a project for us. And then I look at him like, okay, I'll call him later. And then Rich is the type of guy who just kind of just looked at me, and he made me call John up.
Well, yeah, I guess John had been trying to get in touch with either Carlos or Danny, couldn't get in touch with them, so my phone rings at my dad's house. And
Not a cell phone. It was on a wall.
It was just,
a long line.
no, it wasn't actually on the wall. It was one of those.
A rotary.
Just a rotary, black foam, and John Tobias, and he said, you know, I'm working at Midway Games, and we're doing this game. He had mentioned something about Street Fighter, and I really didn't know anything too much about fighting games because he had asked me, do I know what fighting games are? And I said, John, I said, you know the games I like because we grew up together. I said, I like Pac-Man and Donkey Kong and Defender and Stargate. Those are all Tempest, my favorite. But fighting games, you know, I don't know too much about. And he had said, well, I'm trying to get in touch with these guys. Can you get the guys together? And
which is the guy to do it.
And so, and yeah, because you know I'll knock on your door until you answer. So I got the guys together, and we went in and we met John, and pretty much from that point forward, history was starting to be created right there.
Would this have been in 1990 or 91?
This was like, well, this was 1990, like between 90 and 91, because in 90, Daniel and I got the phone call kind of in December of probably 1990.
Yeah.
And Daniel and I, from September 1990, I turned, my birthday September 6th, and Daniel and I were in North Carolina, in Wilmington, filming the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh.
The Secret of the Ooze.
Oh, with Vanilla Ice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go Ninja, go Ninja, go! Yes!
Close-up Pack played Raphael, and Daniel and I were foot soldiers. And I remember, you know, we auditioned for that.
Hold up. Kano and Scorpion were in the Foot Clan under Master Shredder?
Yes. Yes.
I learned this today.
You didn't know that?
No, I didn't know that. I didn't know that Scorpion's first was before you were, you know, in the clan, that you were working for Master Shredder to take out the Ninja Turtles.
That's right.
Yeah.
Did you guys come across Ernie Reyes Jr. or any of these
we're
guys?
friends with Ernie.
Famous martial arts.
Yeah.
Almost got in a fight with Vanilla Ice's bodyguards.
That would have ended well for them.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
John had heard that we were doing the Turtles movie, and you know, he's glad we were back because we were there like 3 months. So October, November, December, got the call, and wanted us to come in. We were gonna film some stuff and talk and negotiate some things, and
The rest is history.
the rest is history.
We got quite, but yeah.
I mean, there's a lot more to say. I just want to hear.
Just wait until our book comes out. You can read the details.
Catalan,
a lot of details that we would be here forever telling you.
I was trying to read, you know, and there's a straight Mortal Kombat Wikipedia. It's like a Mortalpedia or something. I forget which one it says. It's an entire Wikipedia that's all Mortal Kombat, top to bottom. Now I don't know how accurate it is, but the story I read about you, and please correct the class.
Me?
No, about Catalan.
Oh, okay.
What the story I read said something to the degree of you being a fitness coach or trainer or instructor, and John or Ed literally going to your gym and knowing you and thinking, wow, you'd be great for our video game. And sometime after the success is the first, just literally, you just being a walk-on for number 2.
That's not how it
So what's the actual clip? So all right, we're gonna throw that all in the trash and pretend I never said that. What actually happened?
So Danny, if I remember correctly,
Should we explain? Okay, so
Okay.
Daniel, myself, John, Parish, we worked at a place called the Lakeshore Athletic Club in Lincoln Park in Chicago. Catalan was a member.
I was a member, I had just gotten home from school.
Yeah, and so we all knew each other.
How old were you at this time? About 19 also?
No, I graduated college, so I was 22, 23.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all these real life Mortal Kombat characters are just working out the gym in Chicago.
Yeah, we actually worked there and worked out together.
Yeah.
Okay, so you didn't get enough money to pay the bills just from a video game.
Yeah, I was
You had
going
to
to
go back.
college then as well, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
We knew
So-
her brother too. We knew your
So
brother.
I had a younger
Yeah.
brother that was a big Mortal Kombat fan. And you remember he would bug you when you were working the front desk and be like, did you meet my sister yet? Did you meet my sister yet? And you'd be like, shut up.
Hold on,
kid."
Scorpion's working the front desk at the fitness club?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a manager.
Hey, he was my supervisor.
Yeah.
He was my supervisor, and I worked at the front desk as well.
Okay, so Reptile is Baraka's manager at the fitness club in 1992.
Raiden worked out there too.
And Raiden's
Yeah,
over here.
Raiden
Of course he is.
I was a
And we
personal
used to
trainer.
sneak hooks on
Okay,
him.
and John and Jax is a personal
And
trainer.
Kung Lao works
And
upstairs.
Kung Lao's upstairs.
And Ho Sung Pak was a member.
Okay,
Yeah,
look
he was
at
a member, we
around.
snuck him in. You
Oh,
know
okay, that's
And in the middle of this,
right. That's right.
this sounds like the most badass gym in the history of ever.
And you
Yeah,
would
it's pretty
sneak
close
in
Oh, it
at
was a
night.
posh club.
Really,
It was
really.
It
still
was
there?
owned by the
It's still there,
Kaisers.
yeah.
We need to
It
do
was
a
owned
reunion.
by the Kaisers.
We need to do a
It was
Mortal
very
Kombat
posh.
reunion at the
So
gym.
it wasn't cheap.
So all these real life Mortal Kombat characters are actually earning a real life paycheck, working at the gym.
Yeah, we
doing
were.
their thing.
Yeah.
And then Catalan walks in, and your brother, family member of yours, is playing Mortal Kombat
He had been
1,
bugging you for a while.
and was heckling him
Yeah.
because he knew you
had
had
been
connections to the
bugging-
game.
Well, he had been bugging Danny for a while. First
Put
of
my
all,
sister in the
Danny
game.
is so
Put my
good
sister in
with
the game.
grades.
Put my sister
Our
in the game.
kids. Danny's really, really.
And finally, you're like, fine, I'll just put your sister in the game.
Well, I didn't make the correlation,
No, he didn't
but
put
I
it
would
together.
see, I would see her working out, and they wanted a different character besides Liz for Sonia. They wanted to change it up a little bit, so
Yeah.
I was just, and at the
They
time,
wanted martial arts.
she was doing speed bag, and every once in a while, after the speed bag, when she was working the speed bag, she would like boom, boom, kick the bag, and that was that's pretty.
So again,
Yeah, I had this thing.
you are not,
She
you are
could
not,
do the speed
hold on
bag.
now, you are not auditioning. You're not auditioning. You're not up here making a scene like, I hope I get in a video game and become an iconic character. You're just up here just kicking a
I
bag.
was just trying to get into graduate school. I mean, like, that's what's
Can I interject something?
Please.
For all of you out there, let's understand something. We never auditioned for shit. This isn't like you got a resume, you read a motherfucking script. No, that's not how that worked. I mean, when Danny came to me, he's like, yo, dog, man, I got this. Okay, man, you gotta see Mortal Kombat 1, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay. There's a client, I come downstairs. I'm like, oh, this is cool. Yeah, he said, how do you like it? The kids are gonna love it. I said, but you know what? Ain't no damn brothers in the game now. I can't say that today, unfortunately. But back then, it was like, and it was a joke then, you know, I'm like, no, this is a great game, man. I mean, that's you. I mean, man, y'all did this right. And then he said, next thing you know, he's like, you know, 2 weeks later, he comes back with a picture of Jax. And I'm like, oh man, that dude's ripped. Well, he's more ripped than I was. And I'm like, oh shit. I said, man, who the hell is this? Jax, you wanna be that? I'm like, who, me? Yeah. Do I get paid? Yeah. Where do I go? Where do I go? I didn't even ask how much. I don't care. Let's do this. Let's go.
And then Jax extended the olive branch, and
Yeah.
that's how I was a trainer at World Gym.
The same damn gym?
No, a whole different gym.
At
Down the
a
street.
whole different gym down
But
the
on the
street.
same side of Chicago.
But in the same zip
side
code.
town.
Yep.
Hold on. And so Ryan Glenn, who plays Shao Kahn, was my fiance, and we were both personal trainers at the gym. And they asked John, do you know any bodybuilders? And they were talking to him about this couple, Shao Kahn and Queen Shindel. And John said, I know the perfect couple. and years later, hold on, Catalan and I ended up working out at Sharper Fitness together in Chicago, and we didn't know that we were former MK castmates.
Y'all were working together out at the gym, didn't even realize, geez, Katana,
I
you're
didn't know this was
Shindel.
my daughter. And yeah.
And she's younger.
Yeah, that's what I was like,
Not that Catalan's that old. Just by a couple
Your
weeks.
story just like more like, oh wait, we didn't audition for this. We just all happened to be in the right place.
At the right time.
No, that's not quite true. They're really chosen for their athleticism.
Well, we were chosen.
I would
They were at play.
Right.
At the right time.
But we weren't like, we all did, like,
But
we
then,
went to
hold
a
on.
formal audition. I'm
Like I
But
said, I
that's
was
what
eyeing
I
other
think
people,
that's what
but
we've
they
been talking
were
about
exceptional.
with the characters and the portrayals of the actual movements was when I came in, you know, there's some footage where you'll see Ed, he's like, just do the front flip. Like he just wanted me to do the front flip on the blue mat.
You just can't.
And you see me and I'm looking at him and I'm like, I'm wearing a 30-pound wig on my head. I'm not really attached.
Yeah.
What if I just go backwards You know, and I do that drop fall, and my body is so straight because my wig was as much as my butt. So when I was going back, there was no, I couldn't move. I just had to. But anyway, so my point in saying that is we were hired for our athleticism, and the thing that's so beautiful, at least I can speak for my character, is I had to make some adjustments. I'm sorry I can't do the front flip. This is what and that's what gives the the fans the opportunity to have the different experiences, and then now you have the culture and the diversity and who we are.
Well, my mind's blown is that you were in a real relationship with the man portraying Shao Kahn.
I know.
And this dude's jacked.
Yeah.
I mean, he's jacked. Now, his voice in the game is actually this old man I'm telling about, Steve Ritchie. Is this old 70-year-old dude from upstairs at the gaming at Williams or wherever they were making the game. But his body, though, I mean, I almost wanted to cosplay as Shao Kahn today. Jessica says, no, you can't do it. Because I literally can't.
Yeah, you better have a six-pack.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
pretty
and I'm
ripped.
going to tell you something, just like
He's just
like
a
John,
beast.
Brian has aged very well, and
Yeah, very
to
well.
this day we're still wonderful friends. We
That's
did
nice.
a signing together, and yeah.
But at the time that you were portraying
Sindel,
a husband and wife in the game,
yeah,
you were really in a romantic relationship
we were
together.
planning our wedding,
Yeah,
and
they
we would actually.
They were working out together, and I saw them, and I'm like, I was always there. I was training other people.
How tall is he?
He's almost 6 foot.
He's a big guy. They make it, he
He's
looks
tall.
really big with a sledgehammer and the
Yeah.
So Carrie, do you remember the first time that one of the developers called you, or that you figured out that you're going to be a part of this game? Because by the time that you joined the game for 3, so Mortal Kombat's a thing at this point. I mean, most of America had heard about Mortal Kombat 1 or 2. Is a very big phenomenon. Now we're doing it into 3. The steam's rolling, the momentum's going, and something happens. How do you find out you're going to be a part of this?
Well, I had already established a rapport with Midway Valley. I had already done 3 games with them. My first game that I did was NBA Jam. I was actually working at Playboy, doing modeling, hair and makeup, production. I was doing
Missed
the
that
90s
magazine. So good.
That magazine,
It's classic.
I did a lot of work for them. I was working as a producer for Playboy, for the flats. And Jack Hager actually called into the office one day, and he was looking for a cheerleader for NBA Jam. And the people who answered the phone said, "Hey, Carrie, I think you should take this." So I answered the phone and I said, "Cheerleader? Yeah, I'll do it." And I was like, I had no idea what I had committed to or anything. Had no idea how to do cheerleading because I was always in the art room painting.
Yeah, you were never an actual cheerleader. You just wanted to
No.
portray one.
Absolutely, I was a gymnast.
Yeah.
So I showed up, brought a friend, and we did that game, and it was successful. So they hired me for Revolution X, where I worked with Aaron Smith for the day.
Do we have one of those out there, Patrick? Rob,
Yeah,
we have.
do.
Yes, we do.
We have a Rev X?
Back there, I have one next to you in the office. I need you to sign both of them, please.
So in Revolution X, so NBA Jam we have out here. You're in that game. Revolution X. What's your character there? It's a
I was
big
2
one.
characters in Revolution X. I was actually the cage dancer.
That's my favorite. As like a 9-year-old boy, I'm like, ha! That was you.
There were a lot of hearts on that live, right?
Yeah, and I was.
We're gonna go play it. We're gonna go play that. You were
So
Helga.
many hearts
Yeah, I know,
all of
I
a
saw
sudden.
So you had done 2 games, both of those commercial successes. And then how does that lead exactly into Mortal Kombat?
And then War Gods came around.
Okay.
I was Vala for that, and by the time Mortal Kombat 3 came around, they were looking for a new Sonia, and they just asked me to do it, and I said, yeah, sure.
Just like that. Just like work. I remember, they used to do these players guides. You guys remember going to Blockbuster Video? They have these big, Sears catalogs that has all the cheat sheets, and also they would have some behind-the-scenes footage of them producing the game, some of the characters, some of the great pictures, I guess, that you took. Some of these would end up in these books, and they show them. And I remember thinking, when I saw the one for Mortal Kombat 3, I'm like, Sonya looks different. And I don't know if it was just the outfit, the stripes, and but I could tell it was a little different. And so some of the characters, like Kano, really stayed the same left to right. And then some of the other characters would change even per iteration.
I never knew there was another with Sonia.
She's the only.
Well, let's just forget all the others.
The funniest story about me doing Mortal Kombat 3 is that I didn't even know what the hell Mortal Kombat was. It was a game for me. And then it turned into this big thing. And I was like, I should really learn some martial arts. Because then they hired me for the tour.
Well, and then you got a crash course in martial arts.
Yeah, and so I was on tour, and we had to train in the Catskill Mountains for 3 months, 12 hours a day. Pat Johnson was my trainer, and he was a choreographer for Teenage Mutant Turtles.
Yeah,
Mortal
famous Hollywood
Kombat,
choreographer.
Karate Kid. And when he first saw me, he said, she's useless. And he didn't want me on the tour because I didn't know martial arts. And word got back to me, I was like, I'm going to prove this motherfucker wrong.
That's
So
what
we
T.T.
had-
Fletcher says.
We had 2 companies. We had East Coast and West Coast.
Yep.
And so there was another Sonia on the tour.
Yeah, not the real son.
And as we were going through all our training, I would get up before everybody, I would work out, and then I would train with everybody during the day, and I would, stick to my schedule, and I had stuff to prove. Meanwhile, the other Sonia had ice packs on both knees and was in bed because she was so sore.
Oh.
So I was not only doing my part, I was doing her part too, so the other team members, could practice. And by the end of the tour, I had learned enough to get by for our show, which we did like 3 to 4 shows a day, so it was no joke. And Pat Johnson came up to me and says, I just want to apologize to you. In the beginning, I said some words, and now I just want you to know that you have balls of steel.
You're in disrespect.
And yeah, and that meant so much to me that, this man that I looked up to at the time, he was like an 8th degree black belt, he said, you're good enough. So
You are good enough.
Oh.
You're the best.
So, before I hand it over here to the fans, let's have 2 more quick questions. Have you ever, any of you guys ever listened to that Mortal Kombat song while you were working out or driving your car really fast?
I am a former fitness competitor, and I actually did an entire fitness routine to that song.
Did the people watching even realize specifically that you were from the
No.
game?
No.
So that was an Easter egg for you and you alone.
Right, it was for me and me alone, and it was just really kind of more thematic. And when you compete, you have 2 minutes on stage, and you have a theme, you have music, a costume, and so it was really right around that time, and that song was so popular. And,
Oh yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Technology.
I ended up doing really well.
So any of you guys ever worked out to that song or listened to it, or is it kind of like an earworm where you just rather would not?
It plays, I never minded it. So even today when I hear it, I like it. So it's kind of, just one of those things that we just kind of, because when Dan Fordman was creating it, I would hear him creating it like often, because his office was right next to where the storage room we were filming at. When we first started,
Yes, it was a storage room.
It wasn't a film studio, it was a storage room. First day of filming, John and I spent 2 hours cleaning out an area to film. Then that's when he put me in front of the camera and said, okay, do something cool.
It's the original soundtrack. Does anybody else have a fun story with the Mortal Kombat song?
My third bodybuilding contest was Muscle Mania.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Muscle Mania.
That's
And I used that because we only had 60 seconds on stage.
You did it.
Yep. And then for those who came to support me, they said, oh hell no, he did not do that. And then a lot of people afterwards said, why would y'all say that? Because he is Jackson Mortal Kombat. I said, you got to be there. I'm like, yeah, I played that, and it was like, I got 60 seconds worth of it. I'm like, yeah, I don't do it now, but back then, yeah, it was, and even to this day, we do at the fitness, Fit Body Boot Camp out in Naperville, we get the live DJ in, he knows I'm Jackson, he will slap it in during my routine. And he will play it, I'm like, okay, enough. Okay, now I got the.
So, we're familiar, some of you guys would be familiar with in music. At some point, music started to get a little vulgar, started to get a little crass, started to push some boundaries, and they had to come up with this warning label. And the warning label was basically saying parental advisory explicit content. And I can't remember if it was Two Live Crew or NWA that actually ended up pushing this into prominence. But there was a mark in musical history where once now it's like a badge of pride. You want to get your parent advisory sticker on there. Well, in the same way, Mortal Kombat was extremely controversial for the violence, the gore, the fatalities, the blood on the screen. And in 1994, we come up with the ESRB, which basically is the video game version of the same thing. And it's this video game rating system. So you guys remember, there was just the box. Some of you guys even had the box. They were autographing them. If you have like Mortal Kombat 1 or 2, some of these are not going to have any rating on it at all. But at some point, we jump over, and now we have a video game rating rated M for mature. M for mature. Do you guys take credit for that? Do you think Mortal Kombat is...
Oh, we know Mortal Kombat. Ed Boon, and then we're up on Capitol Hill. I saw that in the congressional hearings. I said, don't do it, Ed. Don't say whoopee. Because they asked him a question, I said, that's the dumbest. And Ed was like, you know Ed smirk. I'm like,
well, so...
Wait, did you do it?
no, thank God he didn't.
Yeah. I wanted to know. I was like, oh.
No, but going back to what he's saying, yeah, that's after that moment because of the lady in Utah, and I forgot the name of the congressman who pushed it through. Tipper Gore, yeah, all of them. Same thing with weed and everything else, and steroids as well. They're the ones who pushed it through, and then you got ratings now.
I meant like
No, he didn't do that. No.
So when that live action movie came out, was it 95? 95? Now, first of all, the one question is, why in the hell weren't you guys in the movie? Which is probably its own question. But second of all, were you guys in the movie watching yourselves in 1995? Be like, there I am, non-Hollywood. How was it like to see the characters that you guys made famous turn into a live-action movie that took over America one summer?
For one, if you look at the bar and you look that scene that you described of me fighting Kung Lao, and then Rich is going to fight my brother Carlos Raiden, that fight scene was set up for Larry Kasanoff because they were like, hey, here's your chance. Do a demonstration for us, and you're going to be in the game, in the movie.
In the movie.
And that's so typical of Midway.
We did that demonstration on there in Reno, Nevada.
Yeah.
There was a convention.
Oh yes, I remember that.
And Larry Kasanoff, head of Lightstorm Entertainment, he was to meet us to kind of see what we looked like, and at that moment he would decide like whether they wanted to use their own Hollywood people or use the real people from the game. So whatever decision they made, they were probably like, yeah, we want to get people that look different or whatever. And he bought the rights, so he could pretty much do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to use us because he owned it. He bought it from Midway. So
a lot of it was so many excuses came out. The one that returned to me was, we were too short.
I actually auditioned in Chicago, and I got the call back that the reason why I wasn't cast as Shindel is because I didn't live in Los Angeles, and they had the budget wasn't big enough to fly me out.
Right.
And I messed up my audition. I'll tell you. So I actually flew out to California and with Anthony Marquez and myself, and so we were there. Kung Lao. So we did the audition in this like big soundstage, and a couple of sound stages over, they were already building like the temples and stuff, like for the movie. So it was cool because you walk through and the carpenters were building the sets and stuff. This is pretty cool, I always like behind the scenes stuff, but we'd be in this like loft area of the soundstage, and there were all these martial artists in there, just a bunch of them. And Paul Anderson, the director, he was there, and Pat Johnson, that's another story. He actually became the choreographer on the Turtles film. there's another story for that. But anyway.
We can't do that one in public.
Yeah, we can't do that. So anyway, so all these martial artists are there, and I think there were some like roles, like extra roles that if we did well, you know, they would put us in the movie. I think all the main roles were gone. So
But in the end,
when they called my name,
Yeah, but none of us got
yeah.
eventually.
So when they called your name, you had to kind of go up there and do like your martial art. So Paul, and when we were done, all the martial artists in the room were just clapping and they loved it. They were just like, that's awesome, because we had done wushu, which is like what Jet Li does. Really cool on-screen martial arts. Looks awesome. We had this routine we did. It was awesome. When we got done, we thought we were like, for sure, we're going to be in this movie. So the next day we were in a studio, and in the hallway they have a list of who is going to be considered. And our name was not on the list. So we're thinking big WTF. Like, we're like in the game, like how can we not be in the game? The only thing I could say is we were young, and we really didn't know, like, you know, yeah, you should probably not say things like that when you're in the film. I mean, when you're there, you shouldn't say like, oh, I'm in the game, so I should be in the movie. But we were young, we didn't know. But I was pretty pissed off at the time. I'm like, I want to be in this fucking movie, you know? So, yeah, we had gotten a call through, I think Ho Sung called us, and he was good friends with Pat Johnson. And Pat had called him and basically just said, yeah, you know, your guys from Chicago, Paul Anderson, didn't like what we had said, that we had kind of voiced out loud that we were in the game and stuff. So,
Why would that
But we're
offend
ready now, so
Yeah,
whenever the
exactly.
call comes.
Yeah, black hole.
So,
We are.
but we learned our lesson.
ready
We shouldn't have said
and
it, but
to fulfill the roles. And I'm much closer to Shindell's age now.
cameos.
Yeah.
So we got a live action movie this year. I would assume that you guys all went and saw that or have seen that on
Yeah,
demand,
the new movie's awesome.
right? A lot of technology, a lot of upgrades in that. But where's the cameos at? You know, where's the cameos at? Even Power Rangers got it right. You know.
Yeah.
I don't
So-
even know if they know we even exist.
Well,
They know-
maybe the fans can
they
change
know
that. Maybe we need to get
They know we
we
exist.
can get a petition going. So, man, I think it'd be so cool in the next live action Mortal Kombat for us to have some of these iconic characters at least acknowledging
Well,
the
they're
cameo.
making 3 more.
Well, that's 3 more opportunities. Let's go.
That's
Hey,
right.
so I want to turn it over to you guys. We have a little bit of time for some questions. You can ask a question to the whole group, or you can ask a question to one of the panelists specifically. So if you have a question, raise your hand. I'll come over and grab you. Sir, I see you first. Bro, right over here. Hello. I don't even know her. I just did that. Sir, what's your name? Josh, where are you from? Murfreesboro. Is that nearby? Yeah. Here in Tennessee. Sorry, don't know where I'm at right now. All right, so what's your question?
So it's more so just a statement, you know. This is a franchise I've been following for, I didn't even realize, almost 3 decades now. And hearing y'all's personal stories, something I didn't know anything about, just gave me so much more respect for all of y'all to be doing what you're doing and to take time out to be here today, you know, and telling us about it. So, you know, I just really want to say thank you for coming out and doing this. It means a hell of a lot. So,
You in the back, the ninja man. There you go. All right. What's your name?
Brandon.
Brand, where are you from?
Been
Down the street,
Been
too?
here for like 10 years.
Everyone's from down the street.
Yeah.
I should have made the geofence like just Nashville plus 10 miles. All right, so what's your question?
I've always wondered what it's like watching yourself die so many different ways in the game.
Wow, that's morbid.
Is it like hard to like see initially? Or was
I've never
that
had that question.
Yeah.
was it like disturbing initially, or like did you ever think about that in the game?
I think maybe that's, you know, it's like a way to see that life is kind of, you know, unlimited. Like you get multiple chances to do it over and over and over again.
Or it's kind of like, yeah, I like to go like that.
Explode.
Yeah.
Get knocked off a giant, endless bridge.
Since our kids coming back, that just lets me know I'm immortal. So. I don't know how y'all keep bringing me back, but I'm like, I must be immortal for real.
The reason I was asking is because like throughout like the game, I know some people have turned down the like physical part in the game because they don't want to see themselves like certain things happen to them and stuff.
They get some issues.
Oh yeah, that's.
They just scared, bro.
Right.
Yeah,
It's just a video game.
That's on the other
that's
side.
out of my lane.
Yeah.
I think all of us are pretty dark, and it's like, I don't think you could get like a better mentality where I was like, you could probably do that better. Maybe like.
Yeah, like, and back in the if I could just squeeze his head, but pull out some brains on the way out. or something like that, you know?
That's the
They've
best.
got-
You gotta remember, we're old school. We come from the dark age before there was dark ages, what you guys think is dark. You guys have
Right.
technology that makes things look dark. Remember back in Amityville
We had
Horror,
to do it
Exorcist,
all.
I mean, it was like,
We had to do it all.
that is some, that's disturbing. Okay, so today it's like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I mean, whatever.
I remember when Mortal Kombat 11 came out and I saw the trailer.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, now it's real.
Yes!
Well, I love how in Mortal Kombat 11 they've done all the throwback costumes. Of course, you have to pay extra money for the DLCs to get
Yeah.
them. But you can basically make any of these characters, really they're Mortal Kombat 3 versions, or even the Mortal Kombat 2
Yeah.
versions. You know, you can customize the characters to kind of be whatever you want. You can basically have a high resolution 4K Mortal Kombat 3 Sonia Blade in the game if that's what you want to play. And I think that's really cool to give the power to the characters. The fatalities are just through the roof. You know, it's just obscene. You know, throwing people in the helicopters and all kinds of craziness. But that's, it's a part of the fun, right? It's become a part of what Mortal Kombat is these
That is
very
what it is.
eccentric
Should be.
endings.
It should be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an escape. It's not
It's
supposed
an
to be.
entertainment
Should be
escape
escape.
for everybody.
Yeah.
So, who else? I know. Okay. You, sir. What's your name? You didn't expect that.
No.
No.
What about
See,
you?
there's a thing called 6 degrees of separation everybody saw in the movie. I said, this is beyond 6 degrees.
It's
I
less
said,
than.
because
It's
this
less
is
than.
so
You said
massive.
less
Yeah.
than.
Oh, that's what I mean. I'm hungry.
I know.
But there's definitely lessons here. I mean, because of the commonalities,
2.
2, 3, how it's a domino effect that fell into place like a perfect puzzle. And here we are 30 years later, and it's like,
And we're really friends.
yeah, we're
Like
friends.
stuck with each other.
Yeah.
No.
You know, a lot of games, even today, try to capture, like they say, lightning in a bottle. And it comes around every once in a while. And for this to happen when it did in 30 years, it's still going on. It's just,
And that's because of
it's
you.
crazy,
That's what
you
I was
know?
gonna
Yeah, that's because of you.
Yeah,
all.
you guys.
You guys keep it going, so I'm like, well, then we gotta keep it going too.
As long as you get it something to eat, it's
You're
good.
there, I said.
We'll be there.
We'll be there for you. Yeah. Some kind of way.
Well, I think this
And then when
this,
your kids get older, you say, my dad used to watch you. I mean, gray beard down there and shit. Okay.
this has been a terrific panel, and I want to thank all of our guests. Let's give a round of applause for all. A really long day. We've been up and up here working the event for quite a long day, and everyone's tired. But we did want to extend. The management has extended a special offer for me to tell you guys. If you want a last-minute opportunity before we're done, they're gonna be drinking and eating, and you may not hear or see from them for a while. But if you'd like to have a last opportunity to get an autograph, we're going to open the tables back up here, right here at the conclusion of the panel, so you can run and get those items autographed. But the management is saying that we're going to do a special that with every autograph purchased from this point till we're done, you get a complimentary selfie, right? That's cool. All right, thank you, boss. So if you want to get any item autographed, you get an autograph, you get a complimentary selfie as a special just for you guys here from the panelists until we're done. And as for that, on behalf of Game Terminal, everyone here, I just want to thank you all for coming out to the party.
Yeah!
got it. Thank you. No, thank you.